Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Xia. If you missed part 1, definitely go back and catch up. It sets the stage of what we're diving into today. In this episode, Xia shares what it looked like to start showing up differently and how she and her husband are now building a business that helps athletes bring mindset, performance, and purpose together so they can succeed long after the game.
So I'm the oldest. My parents' background is in the military, so a very structured life. I was the stereotypical perfectionist child, didn't need much, made good decisions. So those things filled me at that time, and I didn't know it then. So when all that stuff that made me the good kid or the good person or what I thought made me was gone, because now I don't have a job. Now I'm not doing all the quote unquote right things.
Yeah,
I'm a wife, but like now I actually need support and I don't know what that looks like. I struggled and I couldn't even tell you why. Like I would show up to games and be okay, and then I would go home and just be crying.
Yes.
Or I would like meet girls and they would say things to me that made me feel like, oh, I don't think she really was being nice, but now I can't tell because I'm trying to fit in, but they feel like they don't genuinely care about me and I'm already struggling. So now I'm even more depressed.
Yes.
And I just was like, well, now I don't want to go to anything. And I mean, I went to his games because they were his games, but they're like, oh, no, I'm okay. I'm just going to go home. Or, I just started to isolate even more, which didn't help at all. So I started feeling very alone. And then and that's the thing about being in the NFL. You can't tell the people who aren't in it because they're like, what is your problem?
Yes.
He's playing football. He makes money. Your life is fine. And I'm like, it's not. But so I couldn't tell my family. One, I didn't want them to worry about me. But then I just felt like they wouldn't get it, or they're like, oh, you'll be okay. I eventually did tell like my mom and dad that like I wasn't doing well, but as their child, they're like, there's not much. I mean, they just checked on me. There wasn't much they could do. But I think even still part of them was like, what's wrong with you? Like,
Yes.
You're fine. Everything's fine. You're young. And as a parent, I mean, your young adult child going through a difficult time, like these are all new territory. You don't know how to navigate it. So it's like, I can't tell my friends because they're like, girl, whatever. Your man makes money. You're fine. I'm still trying to get my first job. My parents are like, I don't want them to worry. It's just all these groups of people that are around you that have always been there. And then when you feel like you're hitting rock bottom, it's like, who do I go to?
Oh, yes.
Because I'm supposed to have it all together. I've always had it all together. And now I have this man who has it all together, at least what it appears. So nobody understands. At least that's how I felt.
Oh, I 1,000% agree with you. I feel like you've read my journal because it's like I totally like that is very much how I felt. Was just it feeds this feeling of like I'm alone in this, and there's nobody. Like, who do I go to? When the reality is like the more women that I have talked to since, like, who have, they're out of it now, when they do share, I'm like, wow, like majority of us have experienced very similar feelings. The details are different, but the experience, those feelings, the experiences are very much the same. They're the similar themes. And I just remember, like, even what you were saying, it feeds the isolation and feeling like, who do I take this to? Who is trusted? And even just thinking of like the chaplain and his wife that you guys have had, where they're not getting paid. They're not on your payroll. So it helps to trust that they have a vested interest in you. But it's also challenging to be like, most people will tell me I don't have a problem. But the issue is, as humans, we have these deeper needs that are intangible, that money cannot just solve. And then you're thrown into a position where at the core, we are made to belong and matter. Like, we need to feel accepted. So you go into this, you're like, where can I find my group? Where can I find acceptance? And I'm struggling. And I remember, oh my gosh, I literally had the hardest time during that time, like getting up before 11 a.m., which is, it sucks to admit, like it's embarrassing, but that's how depressed I was. And I remember getting invited to different events and people being like, hey, come, whatever it was, like a social event with other NFL wives. and being like, I know I should go. Like, I know this is good because if I don't, I'll feel even more isolated. But the
Yeah.
entire time I was dreading it. Like, I
Yeah.
would dread it. And then it felt so like I had to perform while I was there because I'm trying to still gain friends. I left exhausted a lot of the
Yeah.
times until I could finally find people where I was like, okay, I'm learning how to like be more honest and real about it, but I still don't really know how to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really challenging and it really does. I'm just so glad that you painted that picture because there's so many elements to this and it's a lot more difficult than people realize.
Yeah. So two things. The pastor and his wife, they Chemdi like they could kind of sense something was off because it was off season, so we were attending their church, and they were like, "Come over for dinner." And the pastor like started meeting with me weekly to like mentor
Mm,
me. Like he was like, "Your life, I know you feel like you're stuck, but your life is you're in a good place. This is a good place to be." And he drew this circle and he was like, now I want you to, it was like all these different categories that were important to me. So I had to like label. And so it was like a pie. And he was like, now
mm.
shade it in of like where your value and importance in time. And he was like, look how unbalanced it is. So it ended up being like,
Wow.
and that was when it hit me like, I'm putting so much into this one part of me that it's making me unbalanced and everything. And that was like a light for me. Um, and I kept praying, kept meeting with him. And I just eventually over time just started not feeling as depressed. I wouldn't say it just
So
like
good.
quickly went away, but that meeting was like a pivotal change in how I started to see. Now, I'm not saying things got 100% better because then I also struggled with a lot of the women that were there were not a lot, but there were times where I was like feeling isolated. So now I didn't feel as depressed about not having a job and my identity wasn't my job. So I understood that. I had to then work through it. But then like I said before, you're in these groups of women that are all classified or self-classified, I should say, in these spaces of, well, I'm a working wife. I'm not settling for his career. Or, I'm a mom, so, I don't have time for that kind of stuff. Or you just start feeling like, well, dang, now I don't feel depressed about my job, but now I feel like, am I doing right as like his partner in this? Um, Am I not supporting him enough? Should we have kids now? Should we wait? Should I continue to look for a job? Should I just stay here and support him as his wife while he's transitioning to possibly injuries and teams that he was going through? And I was just like, this is another challenge that I didn't foresee. And then when we started meeting, I think I shared with you a couple of times how I was like, I don't know if I could do these big group sessions anymore because it just felt so overwhelming. And even though I think we all were in different places, everyone projected it differently. And so it made it
Yes.
more difficult for me to, I'm like, I just got through something. Now I'm going through something again. So I just kind of isolated to smaller groups or people that I could relate to. I could
Yeah.
no longer do the big groups, the big events. It just made me feel worse. And that's when I started. I didn't know then, but I started setting a boundary with myself. Like, nope, just
Mm.
don't go. It doesn't matter if you're invited. It doesn't matter if you are invited. Just don't go if it doesn't make you feel good. And I just stopped going to a lot of the girls' nights that were big with people that made me feel uncomfortable. And so it was
Yeah.
hard, but that's kind of what I started doing.
That's actually so good. I'm glad that you brought that up because in that it's still you're not completely isolating. Like you're not home in your apartment by yourself. Like you've found a few girls that you can show up as yourself, which is
Hmm.
what we desperately need. Like in these
Yeah.
high performance jobs and like where we feel this pressure to have to perform and be perfect, right? Like there's this deep need to find people who actually see us for us, where we don't
Hmm.
have to put a mask on, we don't have to put makeup on, we can just come in our pajamas or whatever.
Hmm.
And so I think that's so helpful for anybody who finds themselves struggling with these similar things. Like it can be one friend, like one
Yeah.
person there, and that is a really, really great place to start, or even just stay to help
Hmm.
nurture and cultivate the things that you need to show up more as who God made you to be, you know?
Yeah. It was helpful when we started the accountability partners. That was like game changer for me because then I could be open and honest. So when we had the big study, sometimes there were women that made me feel uncomfortable or the way they approach things. So I was just like, I'm just going to wait till I meet with my accountability partner. And when we got matched up,
Mm.
I felt like we related on so many things and
Yes.
so many levels. And it felt like, wow, I found a person that I could see. And then, we have other mutual friends that we connected with that it just made the big old world of this football life feels so much smaller. Like I could
Yes.
manage this much. So that's what I clung to, and it helped me until we were done. And still to this day, like even though we hadn't seen each other for 10 years, it felt like I didn't miss a beat because we stayed in touch. We did other Bible studies, messaging on Instagram or
Yes.
texting, or it was a few women that were very critical to me and my support that I would not be where I am now if I didn't have those relationships. And they kind of, instead of like, well, I need to perform for everyone, no, I just picked a couple women that I could cling to and we got through it. And that's kind of how we ended our career. And I was able to be like, okay, I don't need to keep all of these friends because you're kind of forced to with the team, like meet
Yeah.
everybody. But I was like, I don't need to keep all these friends or acquaintances, but I
Yes.
could cling to the ones that matter to me, that were impactful and that helped me and support me. And that's kind of what I did. In the
Mm.
beginning, I didn't know I could do that. That's what made it more difficult. Like, oh, I could like not be around everybody. Oh, I didn't know I could do that because it feels like there's all these rules in the beginning. Everyone
Yes.
do everything and all the wives do and it's like, no, you really don't. You just find your people and it'll
Yes.
make it 10 times easier.
Oh, that's so, so good. I love that. And it's yeah, it's very practical for anyone to be able to apply that to their life and be like, because there are unspoken rules, right? There's these
Yeah.
the pressure expectations. And so to realize actually it doesn't have to work that way. And really by finding those one few people that you can connect with, it helps to feel accepted for who you are, get those core needs met that we all have as
Hmm.
humans, in especially in this particular career. So you kind of were mentioning how that's what you maintained up through the end of football. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the transition. What was it that you found no one really prepared you for when it all ended?
So something that I don't think that I was prepared for was how abruptly it could end
Mm.
just out of nowhere. Like, all right, he's playing. Oh, nope, he's not playing anymore. And it just happened so quickly. He got hurt a couple times, but the last time they were like, oh, we'll send you home to do injury reserve. And you could rehab at home. And we had just had a baby. So I was like, well, it's okay, he'll find another team. And then the call starts, less and less calls, less and less opportunities to workouts. That's what it is. Less and less workouts. And I was like, okay. And he was like, basically, I could tell he was like, I'm not going to keep doing this. Like, oh, they'll send him to a team, he'll work out, then he goes home and they're like, oh, good workout, we'll call you if we need you. And he's like, I'm not going to keep doing this. I can't. And then
Yeah.
we had a baby. So it was kind of like, well, I was pregnant, I should say. And so he was like, once she was born, he was like, I'm not doing this. I'm
Mm.
not going to keep guessing what's happening. And I need more control over my life. I don't want to wait. And then what if they call and I'm with a baby and at a doctor's appointment and they're like, all right, come be on our team. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving my family at the drop of a dime. Cause literally if they call, you go get on the plane like that day and then you might be playing that weekend. And he was like,
Yes.
that level of uncertainty, once we had our first kid, he was like, I can't do that to you. I can't do that to myself. So when the calls started getting less and less, he was just like, I think I'm going to be done. I'm not taking any more workouts. And I was like, are you
Mm.
sure? And he was like, yeah. And I think I struggled more than he did because
Yeah.
I felt like, why are you giving up all this that we did and invested and worked hard for? And he was like, I'm not giving up. I'm just done. Like, I don't want to keep hurting myself. I got a whole life ahead of me and I could get injured again. And so I feel like I went through a transition of like, oh, he's really not doing this anymore. Because I think as he was gradually going, he made up his mind, like, I'm done. So it was hard realizing, like, oh, we're actually done. Because you
Yes.
picture how it's going to end. And
Hmm.
it did not end the way I thought it would.
Yeah, and it typically ends far sooner than either
Yeah.
person's prepared for or what you hoped and thought it would be.
Yeah.
So it's such a hard transition, and all of the emotions that come with it. It's unpredictable, like you were just saying. Like there's a constant state of uncertainty, constant not knowing the whole way through. But then especially like always living kind of on the edge of your seat. Like, I don't know, is he going to get a call today or a call tomorrow? And then is he gone on into another state? And I always think of like, you know, we stayed with the Raiders the whole time, but I think of other women who, like yourself, have been with, you know, multiple teams. And I'm like, it just looks like they magically appear one day on the TV from, you know, last Sunday they were playing for the
I
Patriots and the next
know.
Sunday they're playing for the Jags. Who is the person that's packing everything up, showing up across the country, getting their kids enrolled in school, figuring out like it's the whys. Like it's a very hard way to live in that constant state of uncertainty. And like you're saying, when you have kids involved in it, it adds a whole other element.
Yeah.
What emotions would you say came up during that transition after it ended? Was it grief, relief, confusion, or something else?
I think the biggest thing was like, I'm kind of mourning this period. Like I said, I didn't realize we didn't take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that we had because we just had them. And then I'm like, well, now that I know it's over, we should have did X, Y, and Z. And I kind of felt like, dang, did we miss out on something? And I know now that like all these things happen for a reason. But at the time I was like, well, oh my gosh, we should have did more of this or we should have did that. And that was a little bit of grieving. Um, but I couldn't show him that because it was his career and I didn't want him to feel like, oh, she's sad because I didn't want him to feel sad. I know that some players go through a series of depression or anxiety or, like turn to other vices because they don't have that. He didn't. And I didn't want to like put a little nugget where he felt like, oh, now she's like, oh, what is going on? So I was like, let me just keep a brave face. But internally, I kind of grieved a little bit because I felt like he just got cut short.
Yes.
He was already supposed to be projected to be drafted first, second round. And then he got fourth. And then when it came time for second contract, things didn't go the way that we thought. So it kind of was like a grieving. Like I just wanted so much for all the hard work for him to reach that level that he wanted.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen in that way. But to him, when we would have a conversation, he was like, I've reached the highest level of playing that I wanted. I'm okay. And I'm like,
Mm.
but you didn't get a Super Bowl and you didn't get this huge contract like everyone else. And he was like, but I know that I became the best player ever. Like, that's where he was like at peace. I
Yes.
felt like, well, then the world needs to see that you were the best player. And he was like, I don't. I became better. If I wouldn't have got hurt, I know I would have got X, Y, and Z and all these things. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow. So that was where it hit me like, he's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. But it was a little bit of a grieving moment, just like mourning his potential of what I thought his career would have been.
Yes. Oh man, I'm glad that you spoke to that because it's similar to what we've experienced as well. And it sounds like with Chimdi that he was ready. Like he was at the place of at peace and being like, I'm ready to hang this up, which helps so much. And then there is a grieving process for
Hmm.
sure, like whether it's like visibly expressed or not. Because I think of any transition, like even getting married or having kids, where it's like a great transition, but there's always a sense of loss. So anytime we lose something, even when we gain something great, like there's grief that inevitably comes. And with this, it's like you've worked they've worked their tail off and then you've been there to support and be like, okay, I'm going to handle the back end stuff so you can focus on this. And I want to help see your dream come to
Yeah.
reality and maximize that. So there is for sure the grief, the sadness that comes with the ending of that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're able to speak to that. When would you say that you realized I don't just want to move on. I actually want to build something better for others.
So after he stopped playing, we did a couple of things. As he was like slowly transitioning out, we had launched a restaurant, a barbecue restaurant with some friends. So at the same time where he was like, "Oh, let me go work out for some teams," he actually went to Miami. And we also launched a restaurant. That was like a project that we were like, "Oh, this is an opportunity. Let's try it." We did it for a couple years, and then I realized like this is a lot of work. Don't recommend the restaurant industry. It's a lot of work. And so we started transition out. But um through that time, like learning so many business skills of like working with people, and then midway through that time I started therapy because I again fell into this depression, this time related to motherhood and
Yes.
identity. And so going through that helped me see that there's some life in the gray. I don't have to have it all
Mhm.
figured out, but there's this in between. Like it's not black, it's not white, but there's this in between space where I can sit and be okay. I don't have to be
Mm.
perfect. I don't have to perform. Like it's not either or, it's just me being me. And then when I did that, it started to hit me like I have all these experiences, all these things that we've done, all these people that we know, and we can start to take that and to help other people. And that's kind of how we recently began to launch our agency to help other players. So, for those who aren't familiar, NIL is name, image, and likeness, and it's college players are getting paid now. I'm like, man, we were born too early,
I
but now
know.
they're getting
We
paid
missed this.
now. And so thinking about all the things that I mentioned earlier in this episode about the life in the NFL, now these college kids are experiencing that so much
Yes.
earlier, even younger than we were. And so my husband has started training a couple kids just to help because he just like, we've always kind of mentored kids or people in some shape or form. And he started training some kids and we were like, why don't we do this? But then we realized, oh, they're navigating spaces that they've never been. I'm like, man, this sure much sounds pretty much how we lived our life the first 5 years in the NFL. And he was like, okay. And then, my college background, and that's kind of how we landed on like, let's try to take all this stuff and not let it be in vain. We can use
Mm.
it to help some other people. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that people that help you sometimes are paying you. We're not getting paid yet, but it will become a business. But we're coming from it from a
Yes.
standpoint of experience, one, and knowing the business. So you don't have to feel like, oh, they're just getting paid to say this. No, we've lived it before. So we know what it feels like when you do that. And so that's the different angle that we're taking with launching this company.
Yes, I love it. Because when I got to talk to you about this, I just thought of how redeeming this was and how purposeful and passion filled it really is for both you and Chimdi. Because
Yeah.
I think of how it really is full circle. I mean, you have an incredible background with your education. I mean,
Oh, thank
multiple
you.
master's degrees, like especially like in business, in communication, and all of these experiences that you guys have had in building other businesses and doing this in your personal life. But you've also walked through living in the NFL, and the statistics for that it's 0.1% of
Mm-hmm.
anybody in the US who gets to experience that. So it's very rare. So when you combine all of that together, it's so unique of the value that you and Chimdi have to give to players, especially because it's coming from these pain points. It's coming from like, this is what we wish we had. Like, this is what
Yeah.
would have helped so much. We needed the guidance. We needed somebody educating us, walking us through this. Like, how do we navigate this? And you're bringing all of that together here, and you're helping guys so much earlier, which is just amazing because I think of like what we are talking about as well, how after the league, like there's this big gap. It's like, hey, you can put all this money into retirement, but then you have a huge gap from when it ends. So like, what do you do next? How do you prepare for that transition? And now with guys in the college, it's like, if you make it to the NFL or not, like you guys are there to help build businesses, to help build their brand, to help like really set them up for financial success after football, whenever that does end. And it's just so rare. So I'm wondering, how are you guys building this agency different because of what you've lived through? If you could talk a little bit more to that, if there's anything else that comes up.
So the biggest thing is we're walking through every aspect. So the three main focuses is branding, consulting, business and consulting, and training. So like the athlete performance side. Um, Usually when you get an agent, they're just managing contract. You
Hmm.
probably don't hear from them any other time until it's contract time. When you have a trainer, you just train with them. You train with them when you get ready, and then you don't hear from them till the season's over. Or when you have a consultant, you're doing a business, you just hear from them when it's, and then you're done. We're trying to combine all three because we think that builds the roadmap to success. The players are doing so many things. And mind you, these are college students, so they're in school.
Yes.
So someone to help walk them through, and then we're bringing in the family because the family is the part that we didn't have. They didn't. We have family, but they didn't know the industry. They didn't know how to handle when a manager comes to you or an agent comes to you, how to handle those conversations. So we're involving the family to make sure that everyone in the circle is on the same page, that
Mm.
everyone involved knows what's expected and what's happening. These, like I said, these parents, this is their first time. This is my first kid going through NIL is so new.
Yes.
So
It's
nobody
foreign.
knows. It's wild, wild west right now. It's just like going to the NFL, except for that business has been established forever. The NIL is
Yes.
changing almost weekly at this point and how they're managing it, how they're distributing money. So we're trying to make sure that everyone that's critical to that player, that athlete, is on board, part of the roadmap to their success, whether they make it to the NFL or not, whether they get this huge contract in college or not. But how can you take what little opportunity you're given, or big, depending on where you fall on the spectrum, and maximize it for your success? So you're not getting done and questioning everything or your identity or what do I do next or where do I go from here. So we're trying to build roadmaps and we're using those three roots. It's called Route 3 Sports to bring them all together, to bring this whole paint this whole picture for them. So that's the difference. And we had an agent before when we were in NFL. It's just they just did contract. This is not just that. It's a full service, multi-level agency focusing on those three um, levels of that contact with the player. So yeah, that's the plan. We just recently started putting it together. It's new, it's exciting. We're still building it out, but I'm excited to be able to use all the stuff, like you said, those pain points and some of those highs that we went
Yes.
through to help other players because sports and entertainment is like taking over right now.
Yeah.
It's funneling into everything, politics, business, everything. So if we can just get these newly made millionaire kids and give them a couple tools so they can make meaningful impact in their community and their family for their next generation after them. Because what we know now is that when you have money and power, you can make a difference. And so they have
Yeah.
all of it. So
Yes.
let's use it for good to help people, to help yourselves, and then you have a voice at the table. So
That's so good. Yeah. I mean, it's gold. When I heard you guys talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is meeting a massive need for many, many, many players. Because we're kind of talking about how there's these little pieces of the puzzle that we get. In the NFL, they do have a lot of educational parts. They bring a lot of people in, but it's almost like you get a piece of the puzzle here and a piece of the puzzle here and another piece, and you don't really see how they all work together.
hmm
And what you guys are doing is you're taking really key essential aspects for an athlete to succeed and bringing it together, creating the big picture, providing the roadmap, and being like, we will make adjustments as we go,
hmm
to see what the outcome is and how things play out. But we can bring it all together and help you see clearly the trajectory of where you're going, be
yeah.
like in the game and beyond. So I really love that.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's interesting that we're doing this because it really brings everything full circle, and it helps me remember when I was struggling with those like identity crisis. Like there's not just one part of you, and that's what we want to help them see. Like, you're not just an athlete, you're actually a
Yes.
business, or you're a community changer. There's just all these different aspects that can be combined into one to help you be successful on and off the field. So yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, you're drawing all these different parts of them out so they can see it and they're not just being pigeonholed and defined by one area
Hmm.
they're gifted in. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like that is huge in helping heal that identity crisis as well. It's
Hmm.
very powerful. I'm
Oh,
so blown away and I'm really encouraged and inspired by what you guys are doing in building this. Just because it's full of hope and just to get to again see the redemption and the
oh,
good and the pain parts, but just having it all come together is amazing. So as we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question. Um,
okay.
if there is a woman listening to this who's in her own transition, whether it's leaving a job, a role, or a season of life, what would you want her to know?
I would tell her to live in the gray. That's one thing that I've gained from therapy, because growing up, being the oldest, being, the one that's leading the path for my younger siblings, I always thought it had to be black and white. I had to do this or this. It's either right or wrong. This is the only path, or that's the only path, good or bad. And I realize now that if I can find my gray, what's for me, I'll be at peace. It may not always be perfect. It may not always be what other people expect it to be. It may not always be this perfect plan. But if I just tweak it a little bit, I get a little bit of black, a little bit of white, and it's my gray, and I can just own that, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I am a recovering perfectionist, and I am learning how to do that as we speak still. So it's advice, but it's still a reminder to myself that, like, it's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. Just find what makes your gray and then live in that truth, and you'll figure it out.
Girl, that is so good. I feel like as soon as you said, I wasn't expecting that. And as soon as you said, I feel like you spoke to
Oh,
me. I was like, yes, yes, it's so true. Yeah, because I think that's been a fairly new thing I've been learning because I'm very similar. I literally will call myself recovering perfectionist. And so then my therapist was like, by the way, like, like living in black or white, it's actually a false sense of safety. That's like a way
uh-huh.
we try to feel safe. And the gray is where it's learning to do life messy. And
Yeah.
it's so scary and it's very hard, especially if you're a recovering perfectionist. So
Yes.
I love, love, love that you said that. It's gold. And that is truly where it's like unique for each person of what that's going to look like for them.
It
So,
is.
yes.
I'm cracking up that you're a recovering perfectionist, because, like, sometimes I just, like, make a post, I'm like, hashtag recovering perfectionist.
Oh, that's a new one I got to add. That's so
You do.
good.
You do. It's like, it's so type A woman,
Yes. Oldest
school.
child.
Yeah. Oh, it's really an oldest child thing, especially oldest girl.
Yes. Oh my gosh. High five. That is to me. It's so funny. I'm just so glad I'm not alone in so many levels and layers to this.
You're not. We're
Uh,
living in the gray now, Jenna.
we are.
Living
We're
in the gray.
learning to do it messy. That is the hardest thing. But yes, so good. Sia, oh my gosh. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for just taking the time to have this conversation and be
Of
here.
course.
I know, like there are going to be women listening where they will feel so seen, they will feel known and like understood just because you've
Oh,
spoken to things that are rarely talked about. So thank you so much for just being willing to share honestly. I really
oh.
appreciate it. But so before we wrap up or as we're wrapping up, where can people find you to connect with you and learn more about Route 3 Sports?
So I am on TikTok, not TikTok. I am on TikTok, but I have not claimed my profile, my name. So there's just numbers as my profile.
I
I'm
love
like
it.
secretly incognito on there. But on Instagram and Twitter, I guess now it's X. I'm Xia Chekwa, Xia Chek, XiaChek on Twitter. On Instagram, it's XIAC5, which I probably need to claim my whole name, because that would make more sense now.
Oh my
I need to
gosh.
retire my incognito name. I had it as a C just because that was my maiden name too. So I had a C. So I
Oh,
was like, we're not married yet, so I'm just gonna put a C.
that is
And then
so
my
funny.
favorite number is 5. But I need to probably just switch it to Xia Chekwa.
That is awesome. Oh, I
But
love
yes,
it.
and Route 3 Sports has its own page. It has no content on it yet, but it's just Route 3 Sports.
I love it.
The number 3 numerical, not spelled out. But yeah,
Ugh,
hopefully we'll be building content soon. That's in the works. But at minimum, you can just find me. If not, you know.
yes. To contact, reach out. I highly encourage that because
Oh, thanks.
you have so much wisdom, you have so much inside experience and just can really like meet these women and players, families where they're at. So I'm very grateful for you
Thank
and
you
for
so
what you
much
guys are
for having
building.
me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, if this conversation spoke to you, please send it to a woman in your life who needs to hear it too. You just never know how much she might need it. Thank you for listening. I cannot wait to talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If something from today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a conversation. Until next time, remember that in order to heal, we have to get real. Talk to you soon, friend.